Thank you very much, Abdullah. You've been far too kind. I was thinking earlier, I first met Abdullah, in fact, just over 23 years ago at an evening to fete the appointment of a professor in the law school who spent most of his working life looking at issues of Islam and Islamic studies in Southeast Asia. So all too good to be here with you tonight, and indeed absolutely wonderful to be here with all of you tonight. My technical role this evening is welcome on behalf of the University of Melbourne, but I want to start by thanking Uncle Andrew for a stark account of Melbourne's recent history, and I take the recent to be starting in 1835, as you reminded us, Uncle Andrew, and to thank you for the breadth of your welcome and the insight that you've offered the room, and I think indeed the challenge you've put before those of us in the room to reflect on our actions in October and November later this year. So thank you, Uncle Andrew. I would also like to acknowledge all the traditional owners of the unceded lands on which we work, learn and live at the University of Melbourne, the Wurundjeri, the Woiwurrung, the Bunurong peoples, the Yorta Yorta Nation and the Dja Dja Wurrung people also. We recognise at the University of Melbourne a unique place held by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the original owners and custodians of the lands and waterways across Australia and the continent, and the histories of continuous connection for over 60,000 years. We pay respects to elders past and present and to emerging leaders also, and we pay particular attention to the importance of Indigenous knowledge in the academy of this institution. My warm thanks to you, Abdullah, as I said, but in particular for taking the time from what I happen to know is a very busy schedule to be the MC tonight. Can I also assure you it's not a permanent appointment, but it's something of a baton that we like to share across the university, and I'm all too pleased to have handed it to you this evening. To the many Muslim students, staff, their families and friends, I want to say simply that you're an enormously important part of a community, more particularly this community. I know that tonight's Iftar dinner comes at a rather awkward time. I'm acutely aware that we are near the end of Ramadan, and this is a time when many demands are placed on you. But I'm very, very pleased indeed that you've been able to join with us this evening, and I think the undertaking was not to keep you too late, so we'll try to honour that. To the university's co-sponsor in tonight's dinner, the Australian Intercultural Society, thank you again for the great role that you play in enabling this institution, but also in the work you do across the state and across the country. I acknowledge the members of the AIS and in particular its Executive Director, Ahmed Keskin, who has worked closely with us in the preparation of tonight's event, as he has done now, in fact, for several years in the co-hosting of events at the University of Melbourne. I'd also like quickly to acknowledge the extraordinary work of Amanda Curry, who stewards all of us as we come together this evening. I also acknowledge the work that AIS does more generally. It's an organisation that's been operating for many years, working to build bridges, and I think Uncle Andrew, you explicitly called this out, to build bridges and work for greater mutual respect and understanding among peoples of different faiths and cultures in Australia. Last but not least, on behalf of the University of Melbourne, I wanted to thank all of tonight's speakers, and there's a repertoire. We're probably about halfway through at this point, but there's much more for you to enjoy this evening. And I hope that as we enjoy listening to the speakers, we too will also have an opportunity to have wonderful conversations between those gathered at the tables across the room. We come here from many different places. I think I heard the Provost say just this afternoon when we were launching the UMSU International Food Festival night market, which is on. For those of you who don't get enough to eat here tonight, you can rock on to that afterwards. But I think in that address she mentioned we have over 150 countries, students from over 150 countries at the university, and we want each and every one of you, and those particularly in the room tonight, to feel welcomed, supported and nurtured by their institution. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy yourselves very, very much.